The journey carried him westward again, into lands that no longer felt foreign, only familiar in a way that suggested repetition rather than comfort. The kingdom of Blumund lay ahead, orderly and industrious, its borders humming with activity that betrayed how quickly the world was changing under invisible hands. This was not a visit driven by diplomacy alone. Someone was waiting here. Mjolnir and beyond him, a path leading onward to Englesia. The plan was simple. Meet, regroup, and move together. The reality, as always, proved less so. By now, Blumund no longer demanded caution. Its barriers, once an obstacle requiring ritual and permission, were bypassed entirely. He did not head for the city proper, nor did he announce himself. Instead, he drifted toward the outskirts, into districts that felt transitional, half settlement, half promise. It was there that the pulse of the future beat loudest. Construction rang through the air, metal and stone shaped by laborers drawn from every neighboring land. The centerpiece of it all was a concept still new to the world, a world central station, a hub meant to connect nations not through conquest, but commerce and movement. Nearby stood the newest symbol of that philosophy. The headquarters of the Four Nations Trade Alliance rose above the surrounding structures, 10 stories of glass and stone asserting themselves against a skyline unused to ambition. By local standards, it was monumental. By his own, it was restrained, but intentional. Reinforced magicked glass gleamed in the sunlight, indifferent to storms, earthquakes, or hostile spells. It was built to last, and more importantly, to endure scrutiny. He had designed much of it himself, embedding preferences so personal they bordered on indulgence. Ownership, however, did not mean control. Today, he arrived as a guest. He stood before it in silence, taking in a structure he had not yet properly explored. Time had denied him that luxury. Responsibility always did. Inside, the building functioned because Mjolnir had been given free rein over staff, operations, and execution. Without him, none of this would exist. Talent was one thing, but this went beyond that. There was a knack here, an instinct for moving people where they needed to go, often without them realizing they had been nudged at all. At his side stood Soe, silent and alert, posture perfect. In his shadow lingered Ranga, presence felt more than seen. They wore formal attire, tailored with care and precision. Helmoth silk caught the light subtly, expensive without being gaudy. The suits bore the unmistakable mark of Tempest craftsmanship, fitted by hands that understood their wearers intimately. It was a statement, intentional or not. Passers-by noticed. Whispers followed, not the kind he expected. Eyes lingered longer on the taller figure beside him. Admiration skewed sideways. He heard it all. Comparisons, speculation, admiration misdirected. It was not hostility. It was something more trivial and therefore more irritating. His own awareness turned inward, self-consciousness creeping in where confidence usually reigned. "Okay," he said at last, voice even. "Let's go in." The lobby swallowed them in polished stone and open space, grand without excess. The front desk gleamed with readiness, staff alert and composed. He approached casually, too casually perhaps. When he asked for Mjolnir, the air shifted. A man emerged from a side room, cigar in hand, confidence sharpened into arrogance. He questioned without recognition, dismissed without hesitation. It was a small moment, but revealing. Authority assumed rather than verified. The receptionist knew better. Recognition flickered. A crystal ball reached for connection and was stopped. The man intervened, weaving a narrative of liars and imposters, of fame attracting parasites. He played his role well enough, projecting vigilance where there was insecurity. The truth unsettled him too much to accept. Soe's presence sharpened, intent coiled beneath calm. The response was immediate and restrained, barely. Violence hovered, uninvited. It was dismissed just as quickly. This was not malice. It was protocol misapplied. He chose mercy, not because it was deserved, but because it was efficient. The truth arrived anyway. Recognition forced itself into the room. Panic followed. The man, Gabbana, crumbled under the weight of implication. A demon lord, dismissed at the door. The consequences wrote themselves across his face. Denial gave way to pleading. Pride evaporated. The situation resolved without bloodshed. The receptionist completed the call. Mjolnir arrived, breathless and apologetic, ushering them away from the scene. Gabbana bowed low, gratitude pouring out in excess. Forgiveness unsettled him more than punishment ever could. The office at the top floor was bright, expansive, deliberate in its design. From here, Blumund unfolded like a board game mid-play. He accepted a drink, settled into the space, and allowed conversation to flow. Reassurances were exchanged. Then his gaze caught something familiar. A portrait. It was him. Or something like him. Too refined, too beautiful. Shizu's echo lingered in the brushstrokes. He felt exposed, not by accuracy, but by intention. The revelation that it had been procured quietly, that its artist was unknown even to intelligence networks, unsettled him more than he liked to admit. When investigation fails, it is not mystery, it is design. He confiscated it without ceremony, declared it forbidden, paid for it anyway. Authority exercised not through force, but decision. Mjolnir protested with humor, despair thinly veiled. Soe offered a substitute, a painting of a slime. The absurdity deflated the tension, almost. The matter was set aside, but not forgotten. It never was. Business followed, updates delivered with precision. Underground organizations dismantled quietly. Resistance dissolved, control asserted not by fear, but inevitability. Then came the name that mattered. Veriard. Talented, dangerous, effective. A man who could dismantle systems by understanding people better than they understood themselves. Mjolnir praised him with admiration edged by unease. Rimuru listened, then corrected him gently. Leadership was not about brilliance. It was about restraint, about knowing when not to act. A boss who's too capable, he said plainly, starts believing they're always right. Mjolnir understood. Relief followed. Roles clarified. Balance restored. The party began as planned. Speeches delivered. Toasts raised. Formality dissolved into noise. Nobles gathered. Requests flooded in. Demands masqueraded as diplomacy. Tension spiked. Lines blurred. Voices rose. And then, unexpectedly, Gabbana intervened. He spoke with authority earned moments ago, not years. Redirected the crowd, protected his lord not with steel, but words. The effect was immediate. The swarm dispersed. Gratitude replaced annoyance. A minor man, elevated by circumstance, redeemed by choice. Freedom followed. Space to breathe, to observe. That was when he saw her. Across the room, unmistakable even among nobility and power, stood Hinata Sakaguchi. The air shifted again, but this time it was not irritation that followed. It was anticipation. Her dress was a deliberate contradiction, dark as a starless sky, cut to reveal more than it concealed, elegant in a way that dared observers to misinterpret it. The open back exposed pale skin like a provocation, a reminder that restraint could be more dangerous than excess. The jewels scattered across the fabric caught the light with quiet precision, never distracting from the woman wearing them. Rimuru noticed everything and cursed himself for it. He tried to treat it like reconnaissance, visual data, situational awareness. CL, his ever-present analytical partner, was no help at all. When he asked, half joking, half hopeful, whether this moment could be preserved, recorded, studied later, the answer came back cold and unyielding. No function available, no justification found. The refusal felt personal. Left without support, Rimuru did what rulers had done for centuries when cornered by beauty and expectation. He spoke. The compliment was honest, perhaps too honest. Hinata's reaction was immediate and sharp, her skepticism cutting through his words like a blade testing its edge. She did not accept praise easily, especially from him. Their history was too complicated for casual flattery. Rimuru stumbled, tried to recover, misjudged the line between boldness and impropriety, and paid for it with a glare that could have frozen lesser beings in place. He apologized, quickly, sincerely. The tension that followed was thick, not hostile but charged, the kind born when two people with unfinished business pretended otherwise. Hinata sighed, the scent of wine lingering on her breath, and for a brief moment Rimuru forgot himself entirely. He stared. She noticed. "What are you looking at? I'll kill you." "Sorry." The exchange should have ended there, but something lingered. A faint flush on Hinata's cheeks, a pause that lasted half a second too long. Rimuru, emboldened or foolish, pressed forward, not with touch, but with conviction. He told her again that she looked beautiful, not as a tease, not as a tactic, as a statement of fact. And for just a moment, it worked. Then Shiel intervened with surgical cruelty, attributing Hinata's reaction to alcohol consumption. The illusion shattered. Hinata bristled, reminded him, firmly, that she was a saint, trained, disciplined, more than capable of neutralizing any intoxicant in her system. Rimuru was left scrambling, once again outmatched in a battlefield that no amount of power could dominate. The night moved on. The music continued. The moment passed unresolved, like so many things between them. The following day brought no such ambiguity. The conference hall was built for decisions that reshaped continents. Sunlight filtered through high windows, illuminating a gathering that represented the political spine of the Western nations. Rimuru sat among them not as a novelty, but as an anchor. The demon lord who had defeated an empire now spoke as one voice among many, guiding rather than commanding. The structure was deliberate, a small group, power brokers, not crowds. Fear managed through clarity, panic prevented through preparation. When the discussion turned to the true enemy, the air shifted. Michael. The name alone unsettled the room. Questions rippled outward about angels, ancient wars, apocalyptic cycles thought long buried by time. Rimuru listened, then spoke with measured restraint. He did not exaggerate. He did not comfort. He explained. The enemy's goal was resurrection, Veldanava, a creator god whose return could unravel the world. The method was unknown, the timing uncertain. Tomorrow or decades from now, eternity made patience a weapon. The silence that followed was heavy, but it was not empty. These were leaders who understood that uncertainty did not absolve responsibility. Rimuru framed the threat not as a call to panic, but as a call to preparedness. Life would continue. It had to. Fear could not become policy. He drew on an analogy from a distant past. Natural disasters, probabilities, inevitability. The kind of catastrophe everyone knew was coming someday, but still built homes and raised families beneath the threat. Survival, he implied, was not about certainty. It was about readiness. The response surprised even him. One by one, the counselors agreed. Evacuation infrastructure, dual-use facilities, drills framed as civic improvement rather than doom. The plan was embraced not as a burden, but as common sense. When the name Testarossa entered the conversation, the tone shifted again, not with doubt, but with unmistakable fear. Rimuru watched seasoned politicians recoil at the mere implication of her attention. The meeting could have ended there, a clean success. Consensus achieved, preparations underway, history nudged in the right direction. Then Rimuru spoke again, almost casually. He mentioned that the Eastern Empire, defeated, dismantled, reborn, sought peaceful relations with the West, that its new emperor wished to join the council, that his name was Masayuki. The room exploded. Shock, disbelief, awe. Lightspeed Masayuki, the hero, the man of impossible victories and improbable legends. The idea that he now ruled the empire, and that the empire itself sought reconciliation, was too much for many to process at once. Applause broke out, raw and emotional, fueled by relief more than triumph. Rimuru watched it unfold with a mix of satisfaction and unease. He had not anticipated this reaction. The myth surrounding Masayuki had grown far beyond the boy he knew. Stories had layered upon stories until reality itself bent beneath expectation. He deflected responsibility with practiced ease. Let Masayuki explain it himself. Let the legend sustain its own weight. By the time the meeting adjourned, the shape of the future had changed. The West and East were moving toward unity. Humanity, at least on the surface, stood together. The demon lords were ready. The world was braced. And that was when the call came. Not the scheduled report. Not the routine update. Deeno's voice arrived unstructured, uneasy, stripped of its usual irreverence. Something had moved. Something had shifted. Rimuru listened, the weight of months of preparation settling into a single, undeniable truth. Peace had only ever been a pause. The hook had been set long ago. The loops of diplomacy, desire, fear, and faith had tightened one by one. And now, at last, the line was pulling taut. Whatever came next would not wait for permission. The story was no longer about what might happen. It was about what was already in motion.